You don't even need to mention him. Honestly, it's fine.
Hey y'all, today we have Eytan Shander and an even more special guest, his little one. Say hi to the people, Eytan.
What's up, Matt? Appreciate you having me. Really, it's an honor to be here. Grateful. And as we were talking before the show here, my concept of time and duty and what I need to do is just absolutely warped ever since young Teddy came. But I can't complain, man.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. I'm 10 in some days, 10 months in some days into this. So no, it just constantly unfolds and you learn new things and you kind of see things from a different perspective. So that's awesome.
Well, I'm going to need that perspective because you're like my crystal ball, man. You're like 4 or 5 months ahead of me here. So whatever you see, do me a favor, turn around and be like, hey, check out.
Yeah.
Just be aware for this.
I will. You got that. So, guys, Eytan works at Philly Voice, but he's a radio personality, longtime radio personality in Philadelphia. You can catch him on The Middle with Harry and Barrett, Harry Mays and Barrett Brooks often. Tell them a little more about yourself, what you do out there in Philadelphia and everything else.
Yeah, man, I appreciate this big time, Matt. And I think the big thing for me is I've been able to kind of carve out a nice little area at Fox29 from the sports department in the betting world as this thing just continues to expand. Everybody's placing a bet. Everybody's placing a wager. Everybody's got eyes on. Even the broadcasts are bringing it up. Some cases they'll actually show you a graphic of it. So that's been cool, and being able to kind of expand that at 29. And you mentioned Philly Voice, where I've been able to just be free to kind of discuss and throw out and flow on the Eagles, and that's always going to be the home right there, to go back to as far as the center of content. So I appreciate that.
And yeah, absolutely, Eytan. And what I think is so interesting now is, like, I think people with regular day jobs like ourselves in this generation, we have opportunities that in the past people felt really cloistered into their sector. They really felt like they couldn't really speak on topics that could be considered controversial, or somebody could see it from a different perspective. And I really appreciate that you just kind of just throw out your ideas, even if it's not on the stuff that is your job. It's really cool. So
look, I follow you. Right, you walk two different worlds, and you do the same thing, man. So
absolutely,
don't sell yourself short by all means. I think and I'm sure you can relate to this in some capacity here. I think the biggest thing is to know that whatever you're saying, whatever you're putting out, you're believing. And
yes,
it's not a matter of creating something for effect. It's not a matter of reaction. It's a matter of wait. I genuinely believe this. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I definitely I see that with you. We do that in our worlds as far as what we do with sports, and especially in Philadelphia, because I think, as you know, I think groupthink is easy to get caught in our fan base. And look, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but the ability to just exhale and be like, let me step out of this group for just a second. Yeah, I think that's key,
Absolutely. I mean, you can see the train get carried away in 1 week. I mean, the narrative before that Giants game with Jalen was like, Jalen was already beyond McNabb. We need to put the statue up. Then he has the Giants game, and then Minshew has a C+, B- game against the Jets, and now he's the guy.
It's amazing, isn't it? How fast things change. And look, I think part of it is serious. I think part of it is just the humor of who we are as a fan base. But look, I think unfortunately locally, as you know, with the radio, and I rail against it as much as I appreciate and love it, but there aren't enough conversations about the benefits of what Hurts does beyond just run, because it gets reduced to Jalen Hurts being a guy who can run and maybe hit a couple of passes. And I've maintained that the lack of representation, especially on the radio in Philadelphia, of people who look like Jalen Hurts that didn't just play in the NFL, speaking on the better, like it helps add context to conversations.
It does.
And then also the joke of it is that we can't help ourselves. It doesn't matter if it's a backup quarterback or a backup punter, Matt. Somebody that we just love, and all of a sudden has a bad game, and then somebody else comes in, and it's like, oh my, look at those shine. It's like me hanging my keys in front of the kid here, being like, hey, you see the keys? You see the keys? Yep. So I think there's a serious element to it, but I also think that there's an element to our fan base where we're all guilty of it to some extent, where we just can't help ourselves with whatever the backup in whatever position it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you were talking earlier about you do some betting. I was looking at the lines, and I'm going to put them up on the screen here. I have it every week for all the lines at the bottom of the ticker.
Yep.
One that jumps out to me is Dallas 10.5 at the Giants. I think that's absurd.
Too high.
I know the Giants are bad, period.
Yep.
And
Yep.
the Eagles should have never lost to them, because the Eagles aren't like a Super Bowl contender, but they shouldn't have lost to the Giants. But 10.5 for this struggling team, to me, I don't know about that.
I'm with you. I look at the other double-digit lines, right? Buffalo, Arizona, the situation that they're in, even San Francisco to an extent. I know that's hovering just below at 9.5, but division now, New Orleans is in shambles right now with the quarterback position, so you could understand that. And it's also prime time at home for Tom Brady. That spells blowout, right?
Yes.
On the road, maybe a little different, but no, I'm with you here, where all of a sudden this game, it's a divisional game. Dallas still has to travel. It's hard to beat any team in division unless you're like the Jets, right, or the Jaguars by 10 plus points. Yeah, the hook alone, I think, would push me away. Now, for me, it's a no play because of that, because I don't trust Dallas in there. Do you look at it like, and I'll ask you, Matt, do you look at it like it's too much at home to not take for the Giants, especially with that hook? I mean, 10's that key number, so I wouldn't hate you for it by any means. I just don't know. I just don't want to trust Dallas in that position. That's all.
One, you can't trust Dallas. Truly, Dak's in a slump. I mean, they're a better team, significantly better team. If the line was Dallas 5, I'd be fine with that. I wouldn't worry about it. But 10 is a heck of a lot to put that much faith in a divisional opponent who's slumping. Zeke Elliott hit a wall. He early in the season, he looked like prime Zeke Elliott, and now we have Pollard who's dinged up. I'm not loving it. Micah Parsons is an amazing player, so maybe alone he keeps the Giants under 10 points and Dallas gets to 20. So maybe you see 20.
But Mike Lennon, he's going to be playing, right? Mike Lennon is not terrible as a backup. He's a backup. He's a backup quarterback. I'm not pushing that he should be out there starting for Jacksonville by any means, but yeah, he's capable of picking up heat. He's capable of recognizing to where to throw in a hot route. He's capable. He's a veteran who's been around the league. This is not some kid you took in the 5th round that you want to see if he can play in the NFL this late in the season. So yeah, not having Daniel Jones being able to move on the ground clearly is an impact, but I'm with you. I think that this is definitely more of a true line of 7.5. I would even lay the hook at 7.5 if I could at Dallas, knowing how tough it is to just walk away with a touchdown on the road. I feel much more comfortable there, but no, with Mike Lennon, guys getting somewhat healthier, they are going to use Barkley in the passing game. We know that too. Yeah, so I'm with you, man. This personally, I wouldn't take the Giants, but at the same time, I'm not telling anybody on the planet to stay away from that bet by any means.
So you bring up
nice
Jackson
hedge right there.
Yeah, that's good. So you bring up Jacksonville, and there's been a lot of interesting discussion this week. Top line thoughts. What are you thinking about Mr. Meyer being dismissed from his position?
It couldn't have happened. What I was going to say any sooner, right? But it should have happened sooner. That was the point I was going to make. Yeah, I mean this should never have happened in the first place. Was basically what I was trying to say, and we all knew it. And look, we're the public, and I know that generally when you look at the entire public and we group together every single individual here and say that's the public, you're going to defer more to like the lowest common denominator than not, and we usually get stuff wrong. I think we all got this right? I think we all got this right. Everybody got this right. Everybody knew that Urban Meyer was unfit to coach in the NFL. And here's what I think is totally unfortunate about this. The selfishness of Shad Khan, the selfishness of the Jags to bring in a guy who's a gimmick really set people back. You hurt the development of Trevor Lawrence right away. James Robinson is one of the better running backs in the NFL. The fact that people are throwing memes out like, he just did like a bid upstate and now he's free to just roam. It's like absurd. What is going on that you neglect your best player on offense even more than your quarterback? I love this game in one way. Speaking to a betting standpoint, I love the over. I think both teams have awful scoring defenses. Jacksonville has this amazing weight that's lifted, right? It's like you were in a toxic relationship. The person, and go back to maybe younger days for people where you were in a
Yes.
toxic relationship, and the
Yes.
person that you were in the relationship with had the upper hand. And
Yes.
it was so tough for you to break away from that. But once you did, it was like,
Yes.
wow, I have a
Yes.
new lease on life. Like, this is
Yes.
amazing concept life here.
Yes.
I feel like the offense is going to flow now. And look, Houston
Absolutely.
is taking risks. Houston is really bad right now. And they're both defenses are terrible. So I love the over in that. But yeah, it speaks to just how much of a weight there is lifted from Jacksonville. I love it. Sorry.
No. It speaks to the latest thing. I think the last straw was the story that came out about the kicker saying that he got kicked.
Yeah. What is this? What is this?
And I've heard a lot of discussion about this in terms of, that just speaks to you can do that in college, but you can't do that in the NFL. And my thing is, I have been, I wouldn't say assaulted, but I've had a coach put their hands on me in high school, and I just don't think it's ever actually appropriate. I think I think that the reason the fact that people are letting him get away on like, oh, that's a college coach thing and you shouldn't do that in the NFL, like that's just not good leadership. Like you shouldn't need to like assault somebody, to get your point across. The guy's trying to make his kicks. He said, hey, dip and make your kicks.
Yeah.
It's like obviously he's trying to make his kicks.
Right. Now look, think about that moment that you experienced. You're bringing it up in that negative light years prior. It's not like you go back to this and reference, man, if that coach didn't put his hands on me, I would never have done this great positive thing. There's no reinforcement to it. There's no long-term gain. There's no ROI from attacking a player in any capacity, from high school, Pop Warner, what have you. It just doesn't make sense. I'm with you.
It's just absurd. It's unfortunate that Trevor Lawrence, honestly, he's probably the best QB prospect that I've seen since Luck and then Peyton Manning, and you kind of wasted a year with him.
The whole team, yeah, it's deflating, and it just falls into this self-fulfilling prophecy of who Jacksonville is, and same old Jags. But you're right. I think Lawrence can play in the league. They have good guys around him. Any competent coach who understands spacing and how to get guys open should be able to dominate with a guy like Laviska Shenault. I mean, you can use him in multiple ways. Look at Patterson in Atlanta, right? That's a perfect example, I think, of a great way in which is a ceiling to use Shenault. You've got competent guys on the outside you can throw to. It's frustrating, I would think, for Jacksonville, because you think maybe just now this is the year, right, that you come out of this basement and at least you finish, I don't know, 7-10 or something like that, which would be a Super Bowl down there.
Oh my gosh.
And you're right. Look where you are right now. You're right back to square one.
Yeah, all they got to look forward to is the trip to London.
That's right. That's right.
Unfortunately.
Hopefully they have some time to hang. Right. That'll be the best part of the trip. Sightseeing.
So the elephant in the room here talking about Philly is this unfortunate move of the game to Tuesday.
Yeah, man.
It's really unfortunate because now I think there's two main reasons why we're seeing an explosion of COVID cases in the league. I think just because you're seeing it in the general public right now. It's winter. People want to get together. There's not a lot of opportunities. Hey, let's hang out. It's hard to say, okay, let's go take a walk or whatever. You actually have to go inside. So that's one reason. I also think that them not enforcing the rules evenly is leading players to take more risks. And the protocols say that this game should have been a forfeit.
Right.
Based on my reading.
Right.
Am I wrong there, Eytan?
Yes, I think you are right. My understanding of this, though, and this goes back to the beginning in the offseason when they kind of painted what they were going to do in the event of COVID, even back to last year, was that both sides don't get paid if there's a forfeit. So you may get the win, but you don't get the check. Now, I don't hate anybody on the Eagles for holding out and saying, no, wait, so you tell me I get a win, but I don't get a check. Let's play this on Tuesday. And look, that goes back to your point, though, about the NFL has this built-in infrastructure where even if players are taking it lax, or a coach is taking it lax, or a strength and condition guy, whoever it is, the ground zero candidate of a team is taking it lax and everybody else is as well, there's built-in cushion here. And look, I don't know if that's on the mind of every single player or member of the personnel, but you kind of know that in the back of your mind, hey, man, we're not missing a game. The NFL is not going to miss a game. The Players Association is not going to miss a game. So, yes, as a fan, absolutely, I'm upset. And I just saw this today as we're recording where the Washington's going to get 4 or 5 guys, starters, back for this game. And, yeah, everybody in Philly has a right to be upset. At the same time, I also recognize that if it's a forfeit, my understanding is that neither side gets paid here. And that's going to be a major motivating factor because not everybody's making big time Fletcher Cox offensive, money as well here. A lot of guys that need that check. So I understand if they are pushing to say, let's reschedule as opposed to just forfeit.
But they would, however, should the Eagles make the playoffs, they would get some kind of compensation on that back end, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes up, but
yeah, and it's also a risk. You're right. I mean, somebody could easily come up and say, look, we get a win here. We're in great position to make the playoffs. We only have a couple of games left here. We're going to get that bonus. Contracts are going to kick in as far as any type of pump up that you get for making the postseason. And in some cases, it may be incentive enough to get the win and forfeit that game check. I just don't know specifically, and it may just be a players union thing as well here, where if the union is taking over and battling with the league, they may decide, because a lot of times best interests are sacrificed on both sides once the big entities get together and discuss. So I think that's really what's happening here, is that they made this move. I also think, to be totally honest here, Matt, I think this was all about the Rams. I think they realized the Rams could not field the team and they couldn't do anything with just the Rams and leave Washington and leave Cleveland open. That's my opinion based on what kind of I've seen and a couple of people I talked to out in LA that are covering the team. It's just a matter of, I think the NFL looked at LA first and foremost. We just happen to be on the short end of the stick, and that sucks, man.
I totally understand that from a business perspective. There are just minute-to-minute decisions that need to be made. And I just think that on the front end, complex sports fans like ourselves, we knew when those rules were being put out that they would make decisions based on that week and what they need to do to make money.
Yep.
I just don't like a personal peeve of mine, like pet peeve of mine, when things are billed as rules and then they're not rules. They're they're guidelines that when it's unfortunate for you, it's like them's the rules. When it's not, it's like, well, we had to.
Yeah, right. And look, I don't know if 15 Eagles players results the same situation, or if we're in what Denver was right last year, where they had to start a wide receiver as a quarterback, right? So I'm with you. And I think the history of our city and kind of the mentality that has been ingrained in us across the board. I mean, we saw a general manager in the NBA plucked out of a team because the commissioner said, we don't want him there anymore. I mean, we've been victim before. So I think it's definitely right and grounded at the very least to recognize when something like this has happened. And we don't have the opposite to know what the hypothetical would be. It's just 3 games where teams were decimated. And in this particular case, I'm upset. I'm pissed off. I think now Washington has a really good chance of actually winning this game. I hope that the Eagles just respond to this, because getting pushed back just out of your routine is not what the NFL likes from a player standpoint. Washington almost felt like, okay, they needed it. And it was like, all right, now we can go out and play this football game. For the Eagles, it was like, all right, man, we just, we warmed up. We did everything here. We're ready to go. And it was, oh, no, hold on a second. You need to wait a couple of days. So I feel like that hurts the Eagles. And yeah, I'm upset. I'm upset about the circumstances. And it's definitely frustrating as a fan, because I think this brings this back. I mean, it's already dropped the line from upwards to 12 and a half, now down to single digits.
Yeah. And Connor, one of my previous guests on here, said this will result in 3 of the Eagles' last 4 games being played in 13 days.
Yep.
So bodies are going to be hurt, but that's what it is. That's what folks sign up for.
You're right, though.
It's crazy.
It. Yeah, 13 days, 3 games in 13 days. I mean, and they didn't even come right off of a bye week. Now, here's the thing. Depending on who's healthy, right? Do you start Jalen Hurts against Washington, or if he's like, and I'll give you a ceiling here. Let's say 85%. I mean, if he's 85% plus, look, brother, everybody in the league right now is 85% plus. So you got to get out there and play that game.
Yep.
But if he's 60, 65, 70, hanging on that, maybe even, right? Are you playing him or are you resting him knowing that you want him in that full stretch in the end, including now the 2 games that you have jammed following this Tuesday? See, that's the issue that I think the Eagles are still going back and forth with.
That was literally the next question I was going to ask you. So you're on point.
Go ahead. You lead here, man. I'm curious to see what you have to say on this.
I think this whole season, as much as I'm an Eagles fan, bleed green, this season is about finding out what we got in Jalen Hurts. And honestly, it's fine. We have no questions about what his legs can do. That move that he put on that Saints guy, there's like 5 guys in NFL history who could have really made that move.
There's still chalk around that body, by the way.
Sketch, you know. He's etched out on Lincoln Financial Field. So I personally, no matter what, I want to throw Jalen out there this week. And if at a certain point in the game he's like, oh, this ankle is really banged up, I can't go, then we can throw Garner in. Okay. I don't want to put Garner out there and then we have to go with that Sinet guy. Down the stretch, we get him hurt or we get him hurt mid-game.
Yep.
I gotta go. I gotta go with Jalen Hurts. He needs to get out there. He needs to be. And honestly, you and I know how much Philadelphia loves the backup quarterback. If Garner Minshew wins us another game in this playoff stretch, it's tough, especially if we were to blow them out now.
Right. So here's where I'm at and I think if I'm Jalen Hurts, this is the situation I'm dealing with, right? Which is, on one hand, if I go out and I'm hurt, right? However hurt I am, 50% to 99%, doesn't matter. Like my ankle just isn't quite right. And I go out there against Washington. I lose this game. I don't play well, which could happen. I mean, we're all rooting for him. I hope he's here next year too. But if that happens, that benefit of him being hurt won't be given to him. And I think that he can only do more damage if he plays poorly and he's hurt. But here's the other part of it, and it's the point you just brought up. If Gardner Minshew comes out and plays better than even he did against the Jets, which I agree was like a C+, B- performance, didn't really take many shots downfield at all. But if Gardner Minshew just comes out, plays competent enough to look like he can play, they win the game. It doesn't mean that Minshew is the starter. What it does is I think it puts a dent in Jalen Hurts' case as the dominant guy moving forward. So I think Hurts right now has reached a crossroads where it's like, okay, I'm taking a risk either way, either sitting out and hoping that Gardner Minshew in the back of my mind doesn't play competent enough to win this game and hurts my case just against anybody in the offseason versus going out there. Personally, and look, this kid is a competitor from day one, I think, since he came out the womb. So I think he would rather control his own fate as opposed to just sit back and let somebody handle that.
And the league was different than when this guy played, but I mean, Jalen Hurts needs to figure out a way to become Donovan McNabb. And
I like that.
McNabb has in a lot of people's mind, the reputation of being injury prone. But like, if you watch through that whole era, he did get injured often, but he played through significant injuries.
Yes, I agree.
And a lot of times it was because he was in these situations with AJ Feely and Jeff Garcia and people like that, who the fan base had, half of the fan base or less had given up on McNabb, and McNabb knew that he was under, even to Kevin Cobb, who ended up being a complete bum. McNabb gets shipped out of town, a bum ankle. Jalen's got to go, in my mind. He's got to go. Because the risk is too. This fan base, it smells playoffs. There's blood in the water. If Gardner Minshew were to win this game, Philly radio that you got to deal with all week is going to be Gardner Minshew mania. So
I'm with you, man. Just the mentality alone of being able to focus and not have to worry about all the nonsense around you, outside the team. And every now and again, that stuff creeps in. I get it, but just adding that why, as you mentioned, everybody here is geared up for the playoffs. About 4 teams in the NFL are out of it. Everybody else, including the Eagles, are in it. So we should feel this way. It's not like we're banking on some kind of crazy stat that Sunday Night Football gave out. And, oh, they've got a 6% chance. No, everybody, again, but like 4 teams has a legit shot at making the playoffs right now. So it's grounded in some reality. And, yeah, I think just the nature of Hurts combined with what's around him, like what you mentioned, the media, the fan base, all the stuff that just builds up. Just kill that noise, come out, play okay to well, and I think they can beat Washington, especially because Washington isn't fully healthy. They're just getting a couple of guys back.
Totally. I think I think you can't take that risk, because honestly, the how they say the our fate's in our own hands. It really can't be more in their hands, because it's the Eagles or Washington, and you get to play them 2 times in 3 weeks. So yeah, especially, and with that being said, if Garner goes out there as the one to beat these guys 38-10 or something, even beat them 24-20, he beat these guys. So it's too easy for people who have to do your job all week to to have to field those calls. So
hey, you talk about him too, man. Your job too. Don't shovel it all on me. It's not going to be all my responsibility.
Absolutely. So the Thursday night game was awesome. From pretty much beginning to end. I mean, watching that game on the early portion, you couldn't have imagined that the final score would end up where it was.
Well, if you took the over ahead of time, you did. You just need 29 fourth quarter points. So I was sweating that out, man. I think I lost 4 pounds watching that third quarter alone, getting into that fourth quarter.
Are the Chiefs the team to beat in the league now? Are they back?
Well, are they the team to beat in the AFC? Yes. Are they the team to beat? I still don't know what happens if you get Green Bay and Tampa on their day. I mean, the one thing about the Chiefs offense is it seems like they still haven't and I know they put up a ton of points against the Chargers, but even that game, fourth quarter, it's not something that was a consistent stretch of just what we've seen with Aaron Rodgers and that Packers offense, or really Brady more so, and that Bucs offense from a day to day. Chris Godwin having 12 catches in the first half. Those Tyreek Hill days, right, of like 10 grabs in the first half, and all of a sudden the Chiefs are up by 40. They seem to be kind of over. So I think what the Chiefs have been able to do, and this is not a knock on them by any means, you play who's in front of you. I think the Chiefs have been able to dominate the Raiders and then have been able to get by against everybody else over this stretch. They have won games. They have covered spreads. They have dominated at times, especially against the Raiders. But if you just take the Raiders games away, they're a team that's playing well, that's on a win streak. It's not a team that I think that if you just remove the Kansas City Chiefs name, Matt, that we would say, oh, well, that team with those metrics, what they've been able to do, yeah, put them in the Super Bowl. You add Patrick Mahomes, you add Tyreek Hill, you add a man who was kind of up and down and probably more down, but just exploded Thursday night in Travis Kelce, pardon me. So you still have Andy Reid, who will refuse to run the football and throw him a million times. You have those guys, and that's the variable to it. So I would say right now, Bucs, Packers, Chiefs is where I have it as far as the teams to be in the Super Bowl. Look, one of those three is going to be in it. I think we can all probably move on from the idea that Buffalo was dominating the conference. But, look, the Patriots, Mac Jones is not going to win a Super Bowl his rookie year. We know that. But the Patriots are going to be a problem. Yeah. I don't know for who, but the Patriots are going to be a problem. Maybe the Patriots knock out like the third best team, Buffalo, whoever it may be in the AFC, and then the Chiefs just roll New England because, Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs is going to be exponentially better than Mac Jones. But the Patriots are going to be like, if I may, the Patriots are going to be like that annoying, irritating third-party candidate that has no shot, that's just pulling away from a voter base on one side that the other, that they're like, yo, just go away, man. You're going to lose it for our guy who's got a shot, or a woman who's got a shot.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head there.
I can appeal to you.
No, I think you're exactly right. I wouldn't be shocked to see them in the AFC Championship, but no, they're, even if they get to the Super Bowl, I just think they're in a position to get outgunned.
But Patriots or Chiefs?
The Patriots.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think they make it past Kansas City. If they get there, they are playing exceptionally well on defense. Cannot knock that. Mac Jones is going to do whatever the coaching staff asks him to throw 3 times or 35 times. I think Saturday night you're going to see a sneaky performance from guys like Jacoby Myers and Nelson Aguilar, our old buddy, old Nelly here. They have some talent that they can throw to. I mean, Jacoby Myers alongside Elijah Moore, these two young receivers should be guys we're talking about in the AFC East, each and every year. Maybe not to the Stephon Diggs level up in Buffalo, but they're getting there, and I think they have the talent to do that. So, yeah, I'm with you, man. I think New England can make it to the AFC Championship, but everything stops with Kansas City. And look, the playoffs are different for rookie quarterbacks, for young quarterbacks, right? It's a different machine when you get in there, and all of a sudden, coaches, everything slows down a little bit. So they may get knocked out in the first round, but I think they definitely are going to have a chance to be some sort of a disruptor.
Absolutely. So hot seat, what's the score this week? Tuesday night, assuming the game doesn't get postponed again.
So earlier in the week on 29, when all this stuff was going on with Washington, I had it at 38. I was at 28-20, but then they lost a couple of more guys, and I bumped it back up to 38-20. I thought, all right, Washington's going to be down 20 guys. There's no way they don't decimate Washington. Now, Tuesday, all the factors in there. I'll go back to my initial play. I think it's 28-20. The Eagles survive, but depending on where you get this number, and again, this thing opened up at 4 and went all the way up to 12.5. It's down to 8 now. So I have 28-20, and I think this is typical NFL betting here, where so many people got in all these different ways, and then finally the closing gate pushes just to drive everybody nuts. So I'll say 28-20.
I'm with you on the Washington score. I think it's 20. I think the Eagles win 24-20. I think,
okay.
and I think, and on top of that, I think it takes a game-winning drive from the Eagles. I think for some reason that the Eagles are going to be in a rut all day, somehow set the link on fire late, very at the end. Tuesday night football. Weird, but we had that last year with COVID. So
yeah, we had Wednesday. Didn't we have like Wednesday evening football? I think it was like 6:00. We had the Steelers play or something like that. Yeah, it was craziness.
Ridiculous.
Here's the thing, though, man. They could play a game at 4 a.m. in Japan or Russia or what have you, and everybody would watch. They could play a game at 3:30 in the morning on Tuesday, randomly in July. And we would all make sure that hey, we got that football game coming up. Like it's insane. They anywhere and everywhere. But yeah, so do you think it's lower score? I think that's something to look at too here. Do you think it's lower scoring? Because I like your point about the Eagles being in a rut. I like your point about the Eagles needing that final drive. They win the game tight, maybe a little tighter than I had, but I like the narrative, the game script that you've built here. If that's the case, though, Matt, I think this is probably a much lower scoring game, especially since we know the Eagles' bread and butter is to run, move the clock, and not necessarily have Hurts throw a ton.
Yeah, I think that the move from Sunday to Tuesday, it would be huge. I mean, I think you having been an athlete, you train a certain work. You put your workouts in a certain cadence. You say, I'm gonna kick my ass on Wednesday. I got a game on Saturday, so I'll have time to recoup and get myself in a good place. I'll have imagined what it looks like. Every little detail. These guys are creatures of habit, and so you throw that off, and then I think we end up rolling with Jalen. I think he's a little hurt, and for some reason we are committed to having Jalen Reagor out there stretching the field for us. And so my idea is that we need to put Kenny Gainwell in the slot and just roll with that. Okay. However that looks, have him running drag routes. Jalen Reagor's not scaring anybody deep because he guards himself. So
I love that. I'm stealing it. I'm crediting you, but I'm stealing it, just so you know. I'm definitely 1,000% crediting you on that, but that is amazing.
He guards himself. So
that's like what you have on the back of the trading cards back in the day, where it would have just like a little slogan on each player, be Reagor, he guards himself. Wow. What? That's amazing.
Oh man. So
yes, you're right. Sorry.
No, I just have I bleed green again. I'll say it a million times, but I don't think this is a game where we have any chance of blowing these guys out, especially because of the time change.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think that's the biggest concept here that the Eagles deal with is just how problematic it is to your routine, as you mentioned, preparing, getting ready, all the different things that build up to a game. And this is every week. This is not the NBA or the NHL or baseball where you play at different times and different games. You are conditioned as an athlete. Your body is, your mind is, everything from prep to execution to know. And that's why playing on a short week disrupts so many teams. Like we can't ignore, right, that each and every week we see teams outside of last week, but I just think that's because it's so deep in the season and teams are used to it. But, the first 6 to 8 Thursday night football games, it doesn't matter how good or strong a team is, short week, lower scoring, disruption in the offenses. It's evident there. So how can we ignore this and say, no, the Eagles are going to be fine. The Eagles are going to be fine, when we've seen this from our own eyes on Thursday night football with a disruption in schedule. And just adding more days to the week doesn't do anything because, to your point, 3 games in 13 days.
Yeah.
So they're still going to get it a bit on the back end.
Oh, yeah. It'll be exciting from a fan's perspective. We have 3 times in 13 weeks. We'll all get ourselves all pumped up. We'll listen to Ike and Merrill on WIP and get all. It'll be fun for us, but our team's bodies are going to hurt pretty badly.
You're right.
Leading up to what could be a very exciting last game against Dallas, then that throws that off.
You really just have to hope that Dallas, and it's a tough reality to hope for, but on the back end, you kind of just have to hope that Dallas has everything locked up to where it doesn't matter. And maybe they don't need to play starters, right? Because, other than that, like the Eagles don't have a shot at winning the division nearly as much as they have a shot at making the last playoff.
Yeah.
Right. So I want everything as easy as humanly possible in that last week. And you give me whatever circumstances needs to happen where the Eagles are still definitely in contention and the Cowboys can sit Dak and sit everybody else in that final game. Hey, I'll take it. Hey,
I will take it. It just feels weird to be like, oh yeah, Dallas, go get 11, 12 wins.
I know it. Trust me. I even said I'm right there with you. I have to take a shower after this. Partly because my child, but other than that, yes, right.
Well, Eytan, I really appreciate you coming on. Would love to have you back
anytime.
Absolutely, man.
It's an honor.
Take care and have a good day with your son.
I will. Thank you, brother. Anytime I'm here, I really appreciate it. Honored to be here, and go Birds.
Go Birds. All right, y'all. See ya.